Good morning.
Happy, what is it, Thursday?
It's Cinco de Mayo.
Oh, that's right. Happy Cinco de Mayo on top of all of that, folks.
Right?
Thanks for joining us here on Wake Up Shot to Go. And this morning we're talking about an issue that has, it's really struck a chord with a lot of people across the country. I think something like 11 states have talked about it. South Carolina now is, and we're talking about specifically transgender students playing and taking part in sports. And now South Carolina is the latest state to sort of consider a bill like this, and it's passed, I believe, both House and Senate at this point.
So at this point, this bill is one step closer to becoming law. So South Carolina, they are saying, hey, if you're a transgender student, you will not be able to play a sport when it comes to the women's side. And if this gets the green light, then that means they would ban this. If not, then transgender students will be allowed to play. So the state did pass this legislation 30-10 yesterday. Now it moves to the governor's desk. As of right now, Governor Henry McMaster, he has not said or implied that he will sign it or not. But we are hearing from people who are for this bill and want to see it pushed forward. Senator Richard Cash says that if it pushes through, this would apply from elementary school, high school, and also the collegiate level. If we look at the bill, it kind of basically says that public schools will have to designate sex-specific teams, and this is important to keep opportunities fair for female athletes. However, those who are opponents of this, like Senator Margie Bright Matthews, she says this is just a knee-jerk political response to homophobic sports activity. She went on to say that if lawmakers are so concerned about women's sports, then let's talk about equal pay instead of transgender students playing women's sports. So it's called the Save Women's Sports Act. And again, it is to ban transgender students from playing women's sports in South Carolina. As of right now, there's no word yet if it's going to get the green light, but we'll see. But I did put a poll up on my social media earlier today, and it looks like a lot of people say, you know, do pass it.
Yeah. And we should say McMaster is a conservative governor, so you know, I would think chances are that he would sign it. There's no way of knowing; he hasn't indicated, but one would think he would be inclined to. Let us know what you think. Chime in. I will say, folks, keep it respectful. If you don't,
please.
I won't read your comment if you don't keep it respectful. But I do appreciate that different people feel differently, and people of good faith feel differently on this issue. You want sports to be fair,
right?
You want to be also fair to others involved. I think having followed this issue just from the sidelines, you know, as a news person over the last few months, I thought it interesting because different states have slightly handled it differently. I know the governor of Utah, who's a Republican, he came out, this was probably a month or two ago, and he said, listen, I understand the problem. I understand why you know, the House and Senate there in Utah wanted to pass it. He said, but as of right now, we have found 4 trans students that are playing, and one of them is in girls' sports. I don't really understand why we're going through these efforts to target so few among us, especially when we know suicide rates among trans students are up substantially. And as a Republican, he refused to sign it, and he vetoed it instead. Actually, you can even pull up some of what he said, because I think as a conservative Republican, I think he sort of his statement resonated with a lot of people, because he said 4 kids and only one of them playing girls' sports. That's what this is all about. 4 kids who aren't dominating or winning or taking scholarships. 4 kids who are just trying to find some friends and feel like they're being part of something. 4 kids trying to get through each day. Rarely has so much fear and anger been directed at so few. I don't understand what they're going through or why they feel the way they do, but I want them to live. And all the research shows that even a little acceptance and connection can reduce suicidality significantly. So I would be interested in knowing, and maybe people at home know this, because I've not seen it in any of the news out there, the number of trans athletes in South Carolina, because you know, the taxpayers of South Carolina are paying these lawmakers to act on their behalf, and there's lots of issues I'm sure South Carolinians want addressed. Are there so many trans athletes in South Carolina that this is an issue, or is this
up for debate in general? I mean, I think it would be interesting too, on my side, to sit down with student athletes and ask them, what do they think? How do they feel
Sure.
about, you know, a transgender student or student athlete being alongside them in a competition, an event, or a meet? And if they won, how would they feel? Or would they want them to just be a part of it, knowing that, hey, this is more than just winning or losing. It is a teamwork event. It is sportsmanship. It is much more of a family than a competition. So I would be interested to see like what people think. I know I was a student athlete in college,
big time.
and I think, I mean, in my opinion, I would.
It's hard.
It's hard to say because it's like. It's hard. It's really hard to say because track. I think if you stand next to a guy, you could lose that event or that race. But I think the inside of me would say, hey, let them. When you're
talking about, I get it. When you're talking about scholarships and when you're talking about things like that, like it does matter. You mentioned earlier the family feeling of a sport and the team and
in that aspect,
and that
like,
aspect, there's
let everybody
totally. But when you start talking about scholarships and things like that, I get the sort of frustration. I'll be honest with you, I've been disappointed in lawmakers across the country in their lack of ability to find a solution that accounts for everyone.
Right.
And I don't know if there's just people of not good faith trying to find a solution. I feel like we pay lawmakers to find a solution to this that honors people on both sides. I think some people just don't care or don't want to. I think there's a right way to go about this that honors the athletes and honors some of the most vulnerable teenagers out there. Let me get to some of your comments because Ruby and I are just taking up all the time. Right? So a few folks out there saying that this is, Joy says it's a bad law. Melissa says it's awful. Chris says it's about time. Chris thinks this is overdue. Joe says good for South Carolina. Too bad North Carolina has not done the same. Kevin says laws like this are sad, but even safer or maybe sadder that we have to have this discussion. If you're trans, great, that's your business, but don't make it other people's business. I would probably say, Kevin, they're probably not wanting to make it your business as much as they're just wanting to take part. Eric says born gender should be your only choice when it comes to competition with other gender. Melissa making the point that the Utah governor, there's so few of them. Like, why is it an issue?
But that's a good point, thinking of or just bringing up the statistics of how many transgender athletes are out there in South Carolina to see if that really makes up a difference of if this should become, you know, something bigger on a larger scale.
If it's really throwing off, there's a result or something like that.
But I do know, like in college, you have specific scholarships per team. So, and you get that scholarship if you are winning. So it could be a situation where
I think that's why it's a controversial issue, and that's why I say I'm disappointed lawmakers have not been able to find a more
better common ground.
Because that's what we pay them to do, and we pay them to find solutions, and I feel like they're not always doing it. Norma says, about time, boys and men do not belong in girls' sports. It's unfair to girls and women. That's what we're hearing from a lot of people. Gary's hoping other states will follow. So you're getting a good cross-section there of people. I would simply say, I don't know what it is, but I think there's got to be a solution out there that doesn't ostracize people, that doesn't leave people missing out on things unnecessarily on either side of this. And we got to find that solution.
What that solution is, I don't know either, but
I don't know what it is.
It can be a solution.
I think there's got to be people out there. As long as there are people motivated by wanting to find a solution, I think that's the key.
And then also hearing from, I'm still going back to hearing from the people who are actually involved and impacted, and who's right there on the team. What do they have to say, and let that also lead? Because I mean, lawmakers can make a decision all day and long, but it's the people who are actually competing side by side.
Let me tell you, Ruby Durham, as a host of Flashpoint on this station, I am shocked at the number of lawmakers who do not often consult with the people who are impacted. And this has nothing to do with this issue. This has to do with almost every issue. And this is not a Charlotte problem, a North Carolina problem, a Carolina. This is a national problem. And when you have legislators legislating and not consulting with the people who are impacted by it.
Well, I have an assignment for you for the next flashpoint. Right. The next time you talk to one of these lawmakers, ask them, why are you not going to?
That would take about 12 flashpoints.
We have some questions that need answers.
That's right. That's right. Kevin, some more special privileges. And then Melissa, finally, saying this community deserves to work, play, and simply live as the same as the rest of us. It's not that hard. So we're going to close it off there. A good, vibrant discussion back and forth. Like I say, most part, thanks, folks, for keeping it civil and respectful. And here, let's push our leaders to find some common ground. There's nothing wrong with that. And we'll see you back here tomorrow for another edition of Wake Up Charlotte to Go. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.